What's going on, fight fans? I'm back here with another video here set for you guys. Gonna be going and giving a recap of the UFC Apex event that went down tonight. Finally, we are back in action in terms of UFC. And we start off the card with Julia Avila versus Jacqueline Cavalcanti. And this was pretty much just a nice showcasing for Jacqueline. Both of these girls were ranked similarly in terms of the rankings of where their division is stacked, but Jacqueline is way better than Avila on the feet, footwork, and anything in terms of being combinations, whether it be with the feet or the hands. Jacqueline was doing exactly what she needed to be able to do, and Avila did get a nice takedown in the second round, got some nice ground and pound here and there, but besides that, it was literally Cavalcanti the entirety time of this fight. And shout out to her, she got a really nice win over a ranked opponent. And moving on up the card, we had Dontel Mays versus Walter Walker. Not really much to be able to say. Walter Walker got a nice takedown over Dontel Mays, who was kind of a can in the UFC, even though he has some nice, not even nice, he has some victories. Gets the heel hook in and immediately subs Dontel Mays. And somehow, someway, Walter Walker is number 15 ranked in the UFC because there's only 30 ranked heavyweights in the UFC, which is insane. Moving on up the card, we had Vince Morales versus Elijah Smith. As you can definitely tell in the picture, was definitely a banger. It was definitely a banger of a fight. Elijah Smith was a lot more quicker, a lot more faster, especially with the hands in that first round. Vince Morales did have a great pressure, pressing Elijah Smith along the cage. Had some nice combinations and did land some nice right hands. But eventually, Elijah Smith was just taking over in terms of the striking, even though he's kind of known as a wrestler. In the second round, kind of more of the same with Elijah Smith taking over with the striking. And then it starts to get into scrambles with Vince Morales. And Vince Morales coming out with these nasty chokes, sinking in these nasty submissions, damn near almost tapping Elijah Smith throughout these submissions. But Elijah Smith, shows a lot of wherewithal, is able to get out of the submissions and able to get out of those situations very, very well. Um, then it goes and moves into the third round, and Elijah Smith is kind of back on his bike, but he's doing really well, moving along laterally throughout the cage and landing again more strikes. But obviously, in the picture, towards the last 10, 15 seconds, Mr. Morales throws in this nice bulldog choke, cinches it in, is in deep and hard and heavy. And shout out to Elijah Smith to be able to survive that and be able to get the victory in the fight. Moving on up the card, we had Gabriel Bonfim versus Chaos Williams. And wow, what a showcasing for Gabriel Bonfim. Coming back after a long layoff against a loss against Nicholas Dalby in that Fight Night card again in Brazil, I believe. And he kind of did get exposed against Nicholas Dalby, and he is going against a pure terrifying striker in terms of Chaos Williams with a ton of power in his hands. And Gabriel Bonfim, with his footwork and his boxing, his kickboxing, the low kicks, the front teep to the jab and the jab that he was landing throughout the entirety of the fight was really the story of it. And he did whatever he wanted to do, especially on the feet, and making Chaos Williams look very, very ordinary and rudimentary on the feet. And then in terms of the grappling, whenever it did go to the ground, Bonfim had control. He got a few takedowns, and then in that second round, towards the end, inserts this nasty Darce choke and puts Chaos Williams right to bed. And talking about going right to bed, we had Rafael Estevam versus Jesus Aguilar. Um, Estevam won the first two rounds by just web blanking Jesus Aguilar, who is kind of pretty bad on the feet. Kind of wings a lot of the punches, throws a lot of overhands. And Rafael Estevam just had control in the first two rounds with the grappling, did what he needed to be able to do, and Jesus Aguilar came on strong in the third round, was landing a lot of nice clean shots, putting on the pressure, putting on the pace on Rafael. But then Rafael got a takedown in the third round, and he won the fight overall. Shout out to him. Moving on up the card, we had Angela Hill versus Caitlin Souza. Angela Hill, man, 40 years old, still pushing and still putting in some great work, man. That was really, really impressive to be able to see that. Really mixed in the martial arts, as they say. Was really going on the striking, really giving a lot of problems for Caitlin, was springy, was doing a lot of things that a 25-year-old would actually be able to do that pretty easily. Getting takedowns as well, being able to just outclass pretty much Caitlin Salazar on the feet or wherever it may be or wherever it landed. Shout out to Angela Hill. I mean, she still holds on to that ranking that she has in her division. Definitely didn't see that coming out plan, especially against Kayla Salza, who looks like freaking brolic as hell. And moving on up the card, we had Connor Matthews versus Jose Miguel Delgado. Decent fight for as long as it lasted. Some exchanges here that were pretty nice. Connor Matthews definitely had the confidence up, but Jose Miguel lands this nasty right hand through an exchange, hurts Connor Matthews pretty badly. Lands on the canvas, some nasty ground and pound. No recovery and no response for Connor Matthews, and a very good win for Jose Miguel Delgado. Moving to the main card, we had Rodolfo Vieira versus Andre Petroski. Pretty much gatekeepers in the middleweight division is what we're looking at, is a matchup against them to potentially go up against a prospect or a prospect that's trying to get a ranking. Um, in the first round, I think Andre Petroski was doing pretty well on the back feet. He landed a nice hook that seemed to drop/wobble Rodolfo Vieira, I guess. And I think he just outlanded him pretty much better, even though Rodolfo was having some pressure coming his way. And the second round was clear Rodolfo, even though Andre Petroski was looking a little bit better towards the end of the round. But the low kicks, the mixing in with the takedowns, and some of the nice combinations that Rodolfo Vieira was landing on Andre was really nice to be able to see, even at his age, that he was landing and being known for a BJJ guy. But in the third round, Andre Petroski just was fighting the fight that he usually fights, I guess. Was landing good front kicks, was landing good low kicks throughout the entirety of the fight. The jab, the combination started to be able to flow in that third round for Andre Petroski. Comes out with the win. I think he deserved the win, even though it was a close fight. Not really. I mean, it was competitive, but I mean, it was one of those. It was one of those. Yeah, it was one of those fights where you could have missed it and it would have been whatever. And the call out for Bo Nickal was actually pretty impressive. Has the wrestling background, has wrestling chops, but on the feet is kind of be left more for desired. But for Bo Nickal, I think it would actually be a pretty decent matchup. But I think Bo Nickal needs a better step up than Andre Petroski, if we're being honest with ourselves. And moving on up the card, we had Ishmael Bonfim, the brother of the Absolute Showcasing of Gabriel earlier on the card, versus Nazim Sadikov. Towards the beginning of this fight, as long as it just lasted one round. Ishmael seemed to just bull rush and bum rush his way towards Nazim. Was landing a lot of nice shots. I think he was getting the better out of the exchanges between these two guys. Was really putting on the pressure and pace, even though Nazim was landing some nice shots here and there. And just a question mark chick just completely comes out of nowhere and literally stumps Ishmael, fucks up his eye pretty badly, is unable to see and unable to continue, and had him on Queer Street the entirety of the rest of that fight. Nazim with a nasty kick, great technique that he was able to show through that fight. So yeah, shout out to Nazim. I mean, Ishmael, it kind of works out, I guess, for both of these guys. You know, Gabriel loses a fight, and then Ishmael wins on a card, and then Gabriel has a great performance, and then Ishmael gets TKO'd. Bar for bar. I guess that's how we're going to go. Moving on up the card, we had Edmund Shabazian versus Dylan Burka. Not much to be able to say. I mean, Edmund Shabazian lands this nasty right hand, as you can see pictured above, and just literally lays Dylan Burka out cold. Great to be able to see a knockout like that. Not really much knockouts on this card, unfortunately, besides the obviously main event that we'll get to. So it was nice to be able to see that. It was nice to be able to see somebody get out cold stiff. And moving on to the co-main event, we had Calvin Kattar versus Yusuf Zalal. A lot of people on the commentary and in the pre-show were talking about Calvin Kattar being ranked number 10, being a veteran, and all this presence. How is he such a huge underdog in this fight against Yusuf Zalal, a dude that's coming back and trying to be able to get his career back on the UFC, is on a 6-fight winning streak and is looking very impressive, but is going against a ranked top 10 guy. And Yusuf Zalal just completely... he just schooled Calvin Kattar. Just made Calvin Kattar look like an absolute fool on the feet. He was very elusive, very quick. Yusuf Zalal got the job done. I mean, bro, the jab was just money. The kicks were really nice, coming in different varieties in different areas, great angles by Yusuf Zalal, and he was just making Calvin Kattar whiff with his boxing, something that he's really just known for, honestly. Um, in the first 2 rounds, it was just a complete blowout, just skill wise. It just wasn't a competition. But shout out to Calvin Kattar, pressing really hard in that third round, try to be able to get a finish or try to be able to get a knockdown to make it a draw or something like that. So he pushed really hard, but obviously didn't get the job done, still missing and throwing to air a lot throughout the entirety of this fight. So shout out to Users of Law. Hopefully he's going to be in the rankings now and potentially going to get a bump up um, in his career, because it's looking like it's needed right now. And moving on to the main event, we had Jared Cannonier versus Gregory Rodriguez. And man, throughout this entire card, we got some stinkers, we got some bangers, we got some showcases, and we definitely got the fight of the night, thankfully, in the main event. We have Jared Cannonier kind of really on the downfall right now, on a 2-fight losing streak. Was a very, very bad stoppage against a Mavov, but was clearly getting outgunned, outskilled, and pretty much outwilled against Kyle Barajo. And now you're matching up him against Robocop Gregory Rodriguez, who's been on a hot streak, who's looking like an absolute missile out there against the competition that he's been going out against. And his striking and his power looks like it may be the real deal. So they match up these dudes against each other. Cannonier on the very older side as well, still in the top 10, ranked number 7. So the writing is kind of on the wall for this to be a big step up for Gregory Rodriguez to be able to knock on this door and answer the bell against Jared Cannonier. And in the first round, it looked exactly how everybody believed it was going to go. Gregory Rodriguez just continues to walk Jared Cannonier down, landing the power, landing the shots that he's been able to do. Puts him down twice with like nasty right hands. He was landing those right hands with like at different angles as well. It's very, very impressive to see that out of Robocop. And while you see that, and and you've seen Jared Cannonier just get absolutely whooped on by Barajo last time, you kind of are thinking, all right, this is the downfall of Jared Cannonier. We're getting the sunset. We're getting the sun closing on Jared Cannonier's career, unfortunately. But in that second round, he got revitalized. He was pushing the pace. He was landing the better shots, landing more in combination. And Gregory Rodriguez looked like a fish out of water. It was the second round, and it looked like he was already tired out of there. It was insane. But going into the third round, while that is happening, while it's 1-1, Gregory Rodriguez has a nice bounce back round. He's landing more in combinations. He's actually pressing the pace. He's putting on the pressure on Jared Cannonier. I think he was actually winning the entirety of that third round right until the moment that Jared Cannonier lands this nasty, disgusting elbow in the clinch. Why I believe Gregory Rodriguez is trying to land, but he's like leaping into a shot, and he just gets caught with this nasty elbow again. And just goes down on the canvas. And it's literally all she wrote from there. I mean, he survived the ground and pound with like the last 10, 15 seconds. So maybe that sways the way of Jared Cannonier's way, because it was a competitive round. But I did think that Gregory Rodriguez was winning the majority of the round. So that knockdown pretty much sealed the deal for Jared Cannonier to win that round. And you move into the fourth after the break. And it was all she wrote. A nasty right hand to the chin of Gregory Rodriguez, who is chinny. He's a chinny guy. He does not move his head at all. He is there to get hit, but he hits back hard. And not hard enough to be able to get Jared Cannonier out of there, even though he knocked him down twice. Who's also known to be very chinny and can be put out of there. As shown, as showcased in his last fight, but somehow he survived that onslaught by Kyle. So Jared Cannonier proves that he is still one of those guys. He still has a lot of gas in the tank, as they say. But, I don't know. Him still being ranked number 7, him holding his ranking, and him trying to fight his way back to a championship again. And then you got Barajo. You have Adesanya, who's coming off a loss, but I still think Adesanya beats Cannonier. You have Sean Strickland coming off a loss. He's ranked number 2. You have a Mavov, who's number 1 contender. You have Hamza, who's going to get the championship fight next against Dricus. You have Robert Whitaker, but I think Robert Whitaker and Cannonier already fought like in the past before, and Whitaker beat already Cannonier. So there's not much leeway to be able to say that. So he's kind of on the like gatekeeper slash older veteran guy that still has a lot, maybe not a lot, but has some left in the tank to be able to go. And he's gonna be in these main events on the fight nights the majority of the time, especially when he is fighting. Um, so they're kind of just throwing him up to these prospects that get fraud checked or are able to pass the test. That is Jared Cannonier, who's still a great, not a great, but he's still a good fighter. So has a lot of power. Still can be able to mix it in with the grappling and all this other stuff. And I mean, shout out to Ken, and the leg kicks by Cannonier was actually really, really well, especially in that second round. He was landing them literally at will. Gregory Rodriguez, work on your defense, please, 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 and your gas tank as well. I wouldn't say it's a fraud check because Gregory Rodriguez already got put out by Bruno Ferreira before, which was a while ago, but a big step up in competition. Maybe they should have, slowed it down a little bit, put the brakes on it, give him maybe like I don't know, like maybe like a Shara. That would have been a good matchup, even though I think Shara would have outpointed him. But the power of Gregory is insane. Um, Somebody like unranked, but right out of the top 15, or maybe just like 13 or 12. Maybe like a Marvin Vittori, maybe like a Paulo Costa, but a Jared Cannonier who will still be able to push. Gregory Rodriguez wasn't able to get through that test just yet. But thank you guys again for watching this video. I like this video if you obviously like this video. Comment your opinions on what you thought on this UFC card. I thought it was alright. It was okay. It's a UFC Apex event, and usually you know what you're kind of getting when you get those events. And subscribe, UFC fans. Subscribe, MMA fans. I'm here the entirety of the year. I got your back. As soon as you got mine, when you got that subscribe button right there, and you got me right there, brother, and I got you, brother. Yeah. That's how it works. Thank you guys again for watching again, and peace.